Welcome back to the channel. All right. I had the ability, the pleasure, the privilege of interviewing Kabam Crash this last Saturday as an intro pregame show for VBC 5, right? Which was FinTech versus Adam the Rough. Now, I realize not everyone loves Battlegrounds and Battlegrounds tournaments. That's totally fine. I get that. But I've gone back and I've watched this interview, and in my humble opinion, it was even better than I realized while I was doing it. Crash came prepared and dropped more knowledge on us than I even picked up on due to doing the interview and trying to interact with chat and all those things. So I've gone back, I've edited it, all the stuff I think just probably would not be interesting to you unless you just wanted to see it in live stream form, which is the way live streams often are. I will put timestamps in the description to try to match up with all of the various topics that Crash did talk about. And just because this has been this has been the single kind of constructive criticism a lot of my Discord members have given me, and people on Twitter and on the video, is like, we wish it could have gone longer. And just so you know, I'm very open and would love to do a second interview. And as you go through this, you'll hear Crash multiple times say that he'd be very interested in doing it too. There were topics we just couldn't get to that I know I wanted to talk to, and I think he did as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the video. Take care. This is phenomenal. I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning. It's my day off. You can probably see it under my eyes. I am okay with that, because I'm that excited about this. This is an honor, a privilege. I am pumped up to bring this to you, the return of the VBC. So many of you have requested this, so many, and I appreciate that. Lets me know we're doing something right over here. We've got an interview. No, I'm not gonna delay. I know you wanna hear Crash. I wanna hear Crash. I wanna hear Crash. I get it. Please help me welcome. Please clap your hands at home so he can hear it. None other than Kabam Crash. Crash, thank you so much for being here today, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. I have told you that I think your Battlegrounds tournaments are some of the best content our community is producing right now. I watched parts of pretty much all of them. Yeah, so I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for inviting me to do this little pre-show with you.
Dude, at some point I'm going to run out of superlatives, which is hard for me because I enjoy complimenting great people, and you are definitely a great person, my friend. I love what you do for the game. We've got a ton of questions on my Discord server. You know, we know that we were going to be doing this for a while, so I pulled a lot of questions from there. I know that you said you're open to getting some from the live audience. If you're cool with it, though, and we're going to start off, like, the seat might get a little warm over there. I hope you got the air conditioner on. Maybe you got some iced tea, something over there, because we got a passionate community. I did field a few questions from none other than our broadcast partners, Misty K and Pepe. If you're okay with that, I'd love to start off with their kind of general question.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, and hey to everyone watching on those other screens. And also thank you for the sponsorship, Musafa. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that goes a long way, right? All right, so this one was basically directly from Misty K herself. I know you all have talked about this in the thing, but I think this is a sign of just how much as a community we loved this. Okay, and I think you probably already know where I'm going. It's the super event. I don't know if you've heard of it, but we loved the super. I want some super event too. So I was like, thank you, Misty, for giving me a chance to ask that question. So just whatever you can tell us about it, you know?
Sure, yeah. So I think the last time I talked about this was on the live stream, and I said basically we were waiting for data. The early data looked really good, and our analysis is done now. And so, oh, by the way, this is a much different venue than our live streams. I plan on talking about these things in a little bit more detail than I would on the live stream, if that's all right. So I'm just going to be like as transparent as possible here. So basically what the data showed was that the daily super event did a really good job at engaging our sort of like committed players, right? The players who are playing our game every day or most days, they became more regular. You know, they never missed a day. They logged in more. They spent more time playing the game every day. So that's great. But what it also showed is that we didn't really see the same response from our more casual players, which is what one of the things we were hoping for with the daily super event, is by sort of like clarifying all of these different, sessioning mechanics, we call them, mechanics to get players to log in more regularly. We would see a bump in their engagement, and we really didn't. And so what we want to do with the Daily Super, so I'll just say up front right now, the Daily Super event, or a version of the Daily Super event, is going to be coming back. The response that we saw was strong enough that we want to do that. I think it's going to be a couple of months. We already have things planned in September and October that kind of fill the same space. And so probably we're looking at November for a return. And really what we're going to be exploring is ways to sort of surface the value of it to those more casual players. Because our hypothesis isn't that the event wasn't good for them. It's just that they probably didn't know about it, right? Because it's kind of like buried on the event screen. And it's not clear, they probably finished some of the milestones and just claimed the stuff from their stash and were like, hey, rewards, cool. But didn't really know why they were getting them or whatnot. So that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on. But yeah, a version of the Daily Super will be back before the end of this year. And then we have some plans to add a few sort of like tech improvements to it to really surface it as like the event above all events, probably early next year. So yeah, so that's the plan. So Daily Super is coming back. And in the meantime, both September and October have really cool things planned that kind of fill the same space, if that makes sense.
I think I heard a collective MCoC like roar. Like I don't know if I've ever heard our community cheer louder and more in unison than the last like 45 seconds.
Yeah, one of my colleagues that I work with said he in his time working in gaming, he's like a 10-year veteran. He's like, I don't think I've seen a community more unanimous in those launch or something than the Daily Super event. So.
And it's just not an easy community to get to agree on anything. You guys are like, do you want champion A or champion B? And we're like, how close can we get that vote?
Can we get both of them?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We're all too familiar with ¿Por qué no los dos? You're right. Why not both? We're too familiar with that GIF. We enjoy it. Which feels like a really cool segue. And you and I talked. We want this to be a conversation. And I see everyone in the chat. Like, thank you, y'all. And you can continue to submit questions. We'll do our best to get to them. Would you mind telling us a little bit about, like, I always talk about, like, I have tremendous respect for Crash. I think he treats us like adults. I think he gets it that we want to play this game. We want to have a lot of fun, and balancing all that with the rest of actually making a game. And yet, honestly, if people ask me, what is it that he does there? I'll be like, I think he brings awesome. Like, are you the officer of awesome? Or like, what is it that you do over at Kabam?
Sure. So I'll try to make this sort of as brief as possible. I basically fill 3 roles on the contest team. My official title is live game lead. So the live game team is responsible for all of our multiplayer modes, all of our quests, most of our events, obviously like sagas and that sort of thing, as well as a good portion of the features that we're working on right now. It's one of the larger teams. And as live game lead, my role, the way that I think about it is I'm responsible for the what. What are we doing as a live game team? And then my partner in crime, Tyler, our live game producer, is responsible for the how. How are we actually going to build this stuff? So that's kind of like my core role. I also am the person responsible for our games economy at the strategic level. So I'm the one responsible for figuring out how fast player progression is going to be, what kind of resources are available in the game, what modes we want to emphasize or de-emphasize, and that kind of thing. And also providing live ops with the budgets for what they're allowed to sell effectively. I'm also... I was the one who designed the 7-star release plan. And as a result of that, I'm also the person responsible for coordinating which champions are coming as 7 stars, which is kind of interesting. You'd think that would be on a champion designer or one of our balance designers, but it kind of ended up with me. And honestly, like, I've deliberately not given that away because I think it's really fun to think about which champions are coming to the game. So I'm responsible. Obviously, I work very closely with the champion and balance teams on that project. And then the third thing is I'm a member of what we call the core revenue team, and we're the team responsible for all of our major sales days. So again, I mostly work on those at the strategic level, so like what are we going to be selling during our Cyber Week sale, approximately how much everything's going to cost. And then I do spend a decent chunk of time working with live ops just to like hand tune some of those offers on the biggest sales days. So those are basically the 3 things I do on the team.
I prefer to be forthright. Yeah, I think I need a little bit of iced tea right now because I'm like pretty sure I've criticized a lot of your work in my various videos over 3 or 4 years.
That's fine. And honestly, like I hope that we're self-reflective of this. I know that like after the BANQUET event last year, I made a big post on the forum talking about like, how I think we missed the tuning for certain groups of players. And so, yeah, I mean, it's such an enormous endeavor to put together those big sales days. And there's so many groups of players that we have to think about that it's hard to get everything right. But I'm really comfortable right now. Overall, again, I think the BANQUET event this year, we already have some plans for exactly how we're gonna do better for that group of players. I think it's gonna be really exciting. But overall, I'm pretty happy with like the balance of, one of the things we think about a lot is the balance of earned versus paid stuff in the game, and I think that we're in a pretty good spot for that right now. To be frank with you, like, I want us to hit our financial targets while selling as little as possible, if that makes sense. And so that's basically, as the steward of the economy, that's part of my job, is like, how do we manage that runway? How do we hit those targets while, providing value, but also making sure that a good portion of what's available in game can be earned without spending. So.
Yeah, it's interesting to talk to you and look back, right? Looking back is always so easy. People who've been following my channel for a long time, are really active in like, I like to get into the nuance and talk a lot and that sort of thing. They'll know, and you can go back and look. I think it's probably around maybe 4 years now, more likely probably 3, where I started saying like, I believe the economic model has changed a little bit. I feel like Kabam has really embraced like, no, we got a cool ass game. And it's a deep, rich game. And we can really, pardon the term, but like lean into that. And then people will be happy to spend their money because they're having a great time. And it just feels to me, and I didn't know this at the time, but then I discovered that you came along somewhere around that time, right? And so I just think that's really cool personally. We have got so many topics to get into, though. If there's anything else you wanted to say on that, I'm happy to hear. I want to give you that space. But we got a lot. There's a lot of questions.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm obviously not going to take full credit for any of that, but I will say that, like, I think the team has reached a really good balance point where, I'll give you an example. There's often posts on the forum saying, like, if you included this in this offer, I'd be more likely to buy it. And our goal isn't to optimize short-term revenue. Our goal is to become a forever game. You've probably heard the difference between like the finite and infinite games. The finite games you want to win, the infinite games you just want to keep playing, and we're very much playing an infinite game with contests. So our goal is to really optimize our runway, the amount of stuff that we have to reward players with and to sell players, and to really become a true forever game and be celebrating our 20th anniversary as strong or stronger than we're celebrating our 10th this year.
I will be a full senior. No, I won't be a senior citizen, but I'll be on my way to that. No, I'd be happy to celebrate that with you.
Right there with you.
Oh, come on. Here's a question that just like, I know a little bit of this answer. I'm aware you play the game. You and I have talked about the game and the tournaments a little bit. And I was like, okay, this guy obviously plays the game. Like, that's very clear. Would you be comfortable talking a little bit about maybe your journey as a player, right? Like, just whatever you're comfortable with. I realize I believe a lot of the Kabam employees like to stay a bit more anonymous, so I don't want to make you feel pressured.
Sure, yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about it. I'm wearing the dev tag on my production account. So I started playing contests almost exactly 3 years ago in August 2021, basically when I started interviewing for the job on the team. And I've always been a believer that I do my job best when I'm sort of like an expert in whatever it is I'm working on. So I've played the game pretty seriously since that time. It took me about a year, I would say, to reach what I would consider to be the end game. I played in a tier 3 alliance for over a year. And then for the last 4 months, I've been playing in tier 1 with For Loki. So it's been a full journey. It's been good. It's been interesting, for sure. And as I've told you before, Battlegrounds is my favorite game mode. That's where I spend most of my time. Yeah,
If I could have like screeched you there, I would have been like, wait a minute, back up. You said tier 1 Alliance War.
Yeah.
For Loki.
Yeah.
For how long has that been?
That's been for the last, I think it's been about 4 months, for the last 2 full Alliance War seasons.
Dude, everyone's like, don't talk to me about war, but I'm sorry, guys, I love war. How's that been? What's that experience been like?
It's been amazing. Like, it's an incredible group of guys. It's definitely the most fun I've ever had playing our game. It's also the most stressful our game has ever been. Tier 1 war, as I'm sure you know, is very nerve-wracking. I find it very nerve-wracking, but I'm learning things very rapidly. But yeah, it's a blast. It's a great group of guys. Shout out to everyone in my alliance.
This is the Barrow man. So like the real one. He's asking if you're comfortable saying, like, where do you typically finish in Battlegrounds? If you're all right with that.
Yeah, not celestial. I can tell you that much. Yeah, no, I normally, my goal is like top 2 or top 1,000 type area. So, reasonably high up on the glider circuit, but certainly not in like the rarefied air that you and Barrow and those guys hang out in.
I finished in celestial once, and this interview isn't about me, so I'll do this very quickly. I finished in celestial once, and I was very happy and proud. I also was like, I am playing more than I reasonably can.
Yeah.
And there's other parts of the game I want to play. This was an absolute blast. I think it's important to remember that, I think it's Quantum 1 is still like the top 1,000 players. There is nothing else in the world that I am ranked in the top 1,000 in. I'm positive I'm not even close in anything else in the world. So to be
the same way, it's exciting, and basically my experience is exactly what you were just saying. Basically, the seasons where I can put in the reps, I do way better. It's just about putting in the reps, right?
Yeah.
And I have 2 young kids, so most seasons I don't have time to do that.
All right, man, that's amazing. This is a question directly, again, from stream partner Pepe, who's doing all of this in Spanish. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check it out in the pinned comment. Go subscribe. Say hello to Pepe for me, please. Or to Pepe for me, please. We loved the Battlerealm Brawl, and we get it. You can't do it every year or whatever. I'm not looking to ask about that. But what I am asking is Kabam at least thinking, is it on the table? Would you consider doing community tournaments or bringing that sort of thing back in any way, shape, or form?
Absolutely. We really want to do that. I won't get into why it didn't happen this year.
Of course.
Logistically, it just didn't work out. I obviously can't guarantee anything. Nothing is set in stone, but I think it's quite likely we see another in-person Battlegrounds tournament next year, would be my guess. Again, I can't guarantee it, but right now I'm assuming that it's going to happen next year.
That's great. And even just something online, I think that's just the essence of the general question. I know a lot of people are excited about this and what you're doing right now, and just kind of continuing to see that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I can tell you, one of the things we wanted to do was, first of all, we wanted to have more competitors qualify. So we wanted to do a bigger bracket in person. So obviously there's some logistical challenges involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
And we also really wanted to do a multi-season qualification in Battlegrounds, where instead of just where you finish in one season, you earn points over the course of probably 3 seasons, because we think that's just a fairer way to do it. But obviously, again, planning a multi-season qualifier is a lot more logistically challenging than a single one.
Yeah.
So those are some of the challenges we faced when we kind of wanted to scale it up to our true vision of what it's going to be. So I think that hopefully next year, again, hopefully we can do it in person, and hopefully we're able to, deliver sort of a more rigorous qualifier like that, and those types of things is what we're looking at. Yeah.
I think it's obvious. I would love to see y'all do stuff like that. Again, hot seat here. Now knowing how good you are at the game, I've been looking to do some other matches, some charity matches, stream some other Battlegrounds. We're going to do this monthly, what we're doing today. But would you potentially be willing to participate, actually play live on stream? Is that something you'd consider?
Yeah, sure. I consider. I mean, I'm not gonna play fintech, but if you find someone at my skill level, I'm more than happy to do that. For sure.
I found someone. I found someone. He's in the room with me. All right, that's amazing. That's cool. Thanks. Thank you everyone who's here helping me put a little pressure on Crash so we can make sure that happens. And this one is a little bit selfish, and then we're going to open this back up to other stuff. I do a monthly tier list. A tremendous amount of people pitch into that. I'm kind of just the voice to it. The whole MCoC Illuminati, featuring people Daddy Longlegs, Campo, MP Blaze, just so many people, Aiden, Jaeger. And then these spreadsheet wizards is the term I've come up with them. They're both named Adam. They did this amazing sheet. Have you ever had a chance to see the sheet? They asked. They're like, could you ask him if he's ever even seen it?
Yeah. I use the sheet. Your tier list is the one that I use internally, and then I give to other designers when they ask me for a tier list. So yeah, I am very familiar with the sheet for sure. And I can say it is very well constructed. We appreciate it for sure.
Those guys did an amazing job, and it has my name on it, but it is a collective group, so I get it. All right, let's move off of the selfish stuff. I see how much time we've got left, man. You and I could talk for hours. The future of the game, right? I think that's something that as players we're always interested in, right? And that just feels like the way the game is we're like, cool. Now's great. But what's coming? Who are the next champions, or what modes, or I don't even know. Is there anything you can tell us about the future of the game? But
Yeah, sure. So I think there's a couple ways to take a look at this. At the micro level, looking at sort of like the different components of the game, I think this year we've made an enormous amount of progress on really refining our late game content to be both engaging and exciting and interesting. I think story content is amazing, close to perfect. Our Everest content that we're producing is really good. I think the iterations we've done with the Alliance War Encounter Showcase and Saga Incursions have gone really well, and obviously the Crucible went over really well. And we have all sorts of opportunities there. So I think we're like really well served in that area. I think our systemic multiplayer modes, Battlegrounds, Alliance War, are also doing really well. Battlegrounds participation is some of the highest it's ever been, and I'm expecting our anniversary season in October, which world exclusive here, we're doing our first real realm event for. So it's going to be basically everyone working together to unlock milestones in Battlegrounds that season. I expect it will probably be our highest participation Battleground season ever.
Yeah.
And then, Alliance Quest raids, I think, has really breathed some life back into the Alliance Quest ecosystem. So I think we're really, we're set up really well for success there as well. I think the area of the game now where you're probably going to see us focus on for the next year or so is on that regular monthly content, the event quest, the side quest. I think that, and I'm not saying that people working on that aren't doing fantastic work. They absolutely are within the constraints they've been given, but I think it's time that we need to do some innovation in that space. Try to bring those regular monthly modes back up to sort of like an exciting piece of content, or to do more what we want them to do, which is kind of like that steady engagement. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to focus. And then kind of at the macro level, like I'll be frank with you, I'm really excited for how the game is headed right now. Pretty much every live service mobile game saw a big spike during COVID and then kind of a decline off that peak.
Yeah.
But right now, for the first time since I joined the team at least 3 years ago, it actually kind of looks like we're growing again, which is so exciting. It's really hard to grow a 10-year-old product, right? But we actually have more people playing our game right now than we did last year at this time. So I think that's pretty incredible. And honestly, probably the thing I'm most proud of, and most proud of the team for us to actually be able to, stabilize the product. A lot of our competitors are still on the decline. So yeah, I think our future's bright. I said in a forum post, like, I don't think there's any question that we're going to be around for many years to come. And I would bet a lot of money that we'll be here for our 10-year anniversary.
You mentioned the 10-year anniversary. Is there anything that you can tell us now? Again, I'm not trying to scoop the live stream. Just I'm here.
Sure. Yeah. So the live stream next Friday, and we'll be providing more detail about stuff. I can do a couple of teasers. I can say that the Saga Chase, I think, is going to be pretty much without question the most exciting one so far. So we're doing a 4-month saga starting in September. So this September saga will take us all the way through to our anniversary in December. So the Saga Chase, I think without question, will be the most exciting one. In there's going to be a multi-month meta event that sort of celebrates the history of the game, which should be pretty cool. There are multiple unannounced reworks coming in the next 4 months as well. So very excited about that. And then a whole bunch of other stuff. It's going to be 4 months of jam-packed, nonstop content, awesomeness, free stuff, awesome rewards, and then culminating in the Grand Banquet, our 10-year anniversary Grand Banquet, which we have some very special plans for. So,
dude, I feel like you got to say something negative here. Like, just tell me something. Be like, I don't know. I don't know. This is all positive stuff that's making me pump my fist. Speaking of which, I've loved the reworks. And not just because those are some of my best performing videos. Like, I literally loved them. Like, a Superior Iron Man is my most wanted pull from the Titan Crystal.
Yeah.
Can we expect? Got my looks like I'm pointing at you. Can we expect more of? I don't fully understand what's going on. Can you tell me what's going on? I guess is what I'm asking.
With the reworks, yeah. So basically, historically, the way reworks worked was kind of like, is there a champion or balanced designer with some time, and who do they want to work on? Is basically how it worked out. Now we're starting to become more systematic about this, looking at class balance, looking at champions that could really use it, looking at meta needs. I think that I'll give you an example. I think Red Skull was an incredibly successful rework because of what he did to the meta, right? Because of Red Skull, I think Gladiator stocks really rose after his tune-up, obviously. And so, like, that's what I want to see more of. I want to see champions that sort of like create these drives within the meta as part of our reworks. I think Red Skull also, by the way, is like, that's the kind of defender that I want to see more of. He doesn't feel unfair, but he's also really darn hard to kill, right? And to me, that's we need some more of those, I think.
It's like you're talking directly to me right now. Like you are talking my language, man. Hot seat time again, and we don't have a ton of time to get into it, and I'm sorry to everyone. Is the Titan Crystal? You said Titan, and that made me like, okay. I feel like you brought it up, man. You brought it up. Okay, there's there. I'll just tell you, okay, I do videos on these things. I did analysis of it, and something that people frequently say on my Discord server, whatever, is like, I don't want to pull Symbiote Supreme. And I'm sorry, Symbiote Supreme, he's now crying somewhere in the corner. But like, I don't want to pull Symbiote Supreme from a Titan crystal. It's a premium crystal. I want new, I want hot, I want shiny. And like the player side of me thinks, yeah, me too. But then in a really weird way, I just told you my most wanted pull is Superior Iron Man. And one of my second most wanted pulls is to awaken Luke Cage, which is literally like one of the old, I think of Seaton saying Blue Jean Baby. Like when I do Luke Cage, or when I think of Luke Cage, like if those are the worst pulls in a crystal, that's a damn good crystal. So like, how do you, or just whatever you're willing to share on it. But my question is, if you can answer, is like, how do you balance all of that? They're great champions. They are highly rated on my tier list. But like, how do you manage expectations and players and wants and shiny and all of that?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's challenging. So I can tell you basically the way the Titan Crystal works is that we have a pool of champions that we've decided we want to release over like a 6-month period or whatever length. And we basically just sort of carve off the top for the choices for the Titan Crystal. Hello, I see someone waving.
Yeah, sorry. That's right. I do work from home, so
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, so basically, out of sort of like the pool of champions that we're ready to release, we basically carve off the top for the Titan pool inclusion. That's basically how it works. When we launched 7 stars, we kind of, as players know, we kind of like lopped off the bottom 20 or 25% of champions. Said we're never going to release them as 7 stars without some sort of rework. And then we also lopped off a bunch of the top because we wanted to give champions like America Chavez, like Venom, their time to shine in the meta, right? And so, yeah, then we're basically just sort of carving off the top with the Titan pool. And so it will basically improve in value over time as more and more champions open up for release. More and more powerful champions will sort of be included in the Titan Crystal. The Titan Crystal, the goal of that crystal is basically for it to hold its value over time. So basically there's 2 ways that we do that. Number 1, we continue to be relatively conservative about how we source it. And number 2 is we sort of like power creep it to basically over time. And I know that, like, there's lots of debate right now saying like the current Titan Crystal isn't as good as the one was 4 months ago. When I talk about that, I'm talking about like year over year. I'm not necessarily talking like rotation to rotation, if that makes sense.
It does. And it kind of feels like it ties back into what you were saying earlier. And I've used the term, it feels like the game, if the game was a person, it feels like the game has accepted, oh, I'm kind of awesome. And I'm going to be mature about that. And so I'm going to look for the long play instead of the week to week because I'm worried about week to week. That's a big analogy, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And so like a big part of my role managing the game's economy is managing what we call our runway, which is basically like out of all of the champions that will be available as 7 stars, how many do players own right now? Out of all of the power available for 7 stars, the ranks and sig levels, like what rank they are, what sig level they are. And obviously we want to manage that responsibly because we don't want to run out of runway, right?
No,
And so
yeah.
that's honestly, that's basically my primary focus on the economy side is how do we trade that runway responsibly for engagement and revenue? Because that's basically how the runway works. We can trade it at any time we want for more engagement or more money, but how do we do that responsibly so that we can create, another 10, 20 years of excitement for our players?
That makes a ton of sense, and if that's a worthy goal, I could do this with you for hours. I see what time it is. Was there anything else that you wanted to get in? I know there's a couple of topics I told you I was going to ask about that we haven't gotten to.
We can do a part 2.
But I really appreciate this, dude. I always appreciate the transparency, the professionalism, and the maturity which you come to that. And I feel like in all my interactions with you over years now, it feels like your number one priority is ensuring that the players are like you're doing your best to make sure the players are having a really good time playing this game. And that really comes through in all your communications. So thank you.
At the end of the day, making a game that's fun is the most important thing to our success, right? So that's what we try to focus on.